Whenever a Hollywood movie releases featuring an Indian talent, I take the shape of a neighboring uncle, proud that our very own is representing us on the global stage. This is the same feeling I have when across the years I've seen the likes of Aishwarya Rai appear in Hollywood movies and the Oprah show. How I reacted when I used to watch Irfan Khan in movies, or when the likes of Deepika Padukone and Alia Bhatt have tried their stint in films. For the most part, especially recently, the ventures featuring the Bollywood actors have been nothing short of embarrassing, and most importantly, are associated with such mediocre to poor storytelling that you wonder beyond the paycheck what compelled the actors to say yes. The less said about the ventures featuring actors like Disha Patni and Malika Sharawat, the better, barring the effective supporting roles that have been portrayed by the likes of Kubra Seth in Foundation, Ishan Khattar in The Perfect Couple, and Nimrat Kaur in Homeland and Wayward Pines. I think the attempts to be a compelling leading actor and get consistent work in the West has been a losing battle for most. I think other than Aishwarya Rai, who was the pioneer in my opinion in causing waves in the West at first, the one who has attempted to at least have some of the same impact is Priyanka Chopra. I have been an ardent follower of Priyanka Chopra's career ever since her debut, and what I have noticed is that beyond being a capable actor in front of camera, she has an eye when to pivot when things are in disarray, having a sharp acumen to understand where she may have the most potential, diversifying and pivoting whenever there is a staleness that creeps in. I preface this because I sat last night to watch her movie titled The Bluff that featured on Prime Video, and I couldn't help but deduce that there is something always off about the projects she does in the West, only breaking my heart further on how it is such a lost cause, wasting so much of time in such forgettable projects. The Bluff, produced by the Russo brothers, is such a hollow representation of what's greenlit in terms of movie projects, indicative of the fact that it goes straight to streaming. I believe it is one of the last projects that Priyanka Chopra does that is associated with a long-standing but failed relationship with Amazon. I'll dive a little deeper on that later. I'm all for seeing Priyanka Chopra kicking butt on screen, but I couldn't help but conclude, at least with the visuals from the trailer, that the movie looked like an overproduced CW show versus something genuinely compelling. The film has a paper-thin plot set in 1846. Priyanka resides in the Cayman Brac in the Caribbean with her crippled son and sister-in-law, waiting for her husband to return after an arduous journey at sea, only for buccaneers led by Carl Urban to appear on the island and do his best version of what he already did in The Boys, and seek for the gold that presumably lies hidden on the land, the location of course which is known by Priyanka. Several action set pieces follow, and in the most predictable way possible, a dark past is lazily explored that reveals Ercil, played by Priyanka, may just not be an ordinary housewife. There is one highlight to this movie, and that is the manner in which Priyanka kicks butt in the opening sequence when a house gets ambushed. It's one thing that has remained consistent with Priyanka ever since Dawn, that she can get her hands dirty if the script requires it. Heads of State may have terribly used face swap technology in some of her battle sequences, especially when you take into account how capable she is herself physically, but you just see the badass nature of her ability as an action hero as she annihilates the threats being absolutely blood-soaked in her PJs. Sadly, this is where the movie peaks, and it progresses to become 1 hour and 30 minutes of fluff and cinematic dead space best suited for white noise entertainment. What's hilarious about this movie is that it hands over Priyanka Chopra these cinematic quips throughout the film like she were a part of a 90s Hollywood blockbuster. Something the likes of Chuck Norris or Van Damme would say unironically while kicking the butt of the villains. But the writing here seems like such an extension of what AI would think is cool that you can't help but facepalm each time Priyanka delivers a dialogue meant for hooting and cheering, but that produces crickets while watching it on streaming. Priyanka bashes a villain while shouting, "You think you can attack my family?" A poor imitation of Henry Cavill's version of bashing Zod. Someone asks Ercel, "Are you injured?" And she smirks and says, "Not as bad as them." The sister-in-law asks Ercel, "Are you a criminal?" She replies, "This criminal is your only hope." The worst of all has to be Priyanka in a voiceover stating, "They came looking for Bloody Mary. Bloody is what they're going to get." The plot is paper thin, and the film progresses visually to look more artificial with its CGI backdrops while being set in the picturesque Caribbean. A cave clearly looks like a designed set, a hill is purely digitally created, and the final battle makes you wish the end credits rolled a little faster. And this breaks my heart to say because I want to cheer for Priyanka as she represents us in the West, but I think it's undeniable that her Hollywood stint has been associated with mediocre to terrible projects. Priyanka Chopra's speaks about in an interview with Dak Shepard that she experienced back-to-back failures in India before pivoting to the West with Quantico.
I was terrified when those 6 movies didn't do well because I'm not a Nepo baby. I didn't have that kind of support which exists in a big way in Bollywood movies. You know, they are multi-generational actors that come in and get multiple opportunities versus the ones that come in from outside. You don't have your uncle making a new movie for you just because their last one tanked.
She says this, but it doesn't technically make sense to me when I see the chronology of her filmography in Bollywood. Quantico, which in my opinion has an absolutely stellar first season and probably is the best work that Priyanka has done in the West, commenced in 2015 and carried on till 2018. This creates the perception that her projects in Hindi cinema may be drying up all the way up to 2015. But when you see her filmography, I can't help but feel that Priyanka had a perfectly successful career in Hindi cinema and like any other actor had a share of hits and flops. I mean, all the way up to 2015, Priyanka featured in commercial hits like Barfi, Krish 3, Mary Com, Dil Dhadakne Do and Baji Rao Mastani. So this notion that her career was actually kaput and she was compelled to pack her bags is something that the media likes to run with, but I sometimes cannot put 2 and 2 together of whether it was as dismal as one portrays. Irrespective, the impact of Quantico, at least with the Indian diaspora, I have to tell you, I actually used to tune into this show, was that this pivot is only going to lead to abundant creative and commercial success for Priyanka Chopra, but it has somewhat progressively become worse as the years have gone by for the talented actor. She featured as the villain in the terribly mediocre commercial slop Baywatch. I mean, let's be honest, people were not tuning in for the film for Priyanka, it was The Rock and my favorite actress. Supporting roles in mid-films like A Kid Like Jake and Isn't It Romantic followed, and one wondered how everything just seems to have derailed. A praiseworthy show like Quantico, at least initially, that could have pivoted to a fruitful acting career has just led to supporting blink-and-a-miss roles that barely get talked about. Many of you may have forgotten, but in this period, Priyanka featured in a movie which I believe is one of her most underrated acting performances. And not so surprisingly, it was in a Hindi movie titled The Sky is Pink, a beautiful and heartbreaking story on a family dealing with loss, where Priyanka genuinely dedicated her heart and soul to the project. Another aspect of this film that you may not remember is that the movie was a huge flop at the box office, having little to no takers in cinema halls. Everything seemed to somewhat be erratic in Priyanka's career. The pandemic hit, she was brilliant in a movie like The White Tiger, in which I think Adarsh Gaurav absolutely stole the show, but no one would have anticipated that there would be a second commercial push in Priyanka's career, and that happened with the 2023 utter flop series Citadel. The web series alongside Rings of Power was announced as this grand plan for Amazon, as it had taken over MGM in a whopping $8.5 billion deal, and the conglomerate had aspirations to expand its mediums of storytelling. Produced by the Russo brothers and promoted and marketing like the next big thing to take over streaming, Citadel was a painfully mediocre IP that was expanding on a spy network that was intricately working together against several threats by extremists and rogue groups. The series, its outcome and reception led to Amazon dealing with massive losses, estimated to be upwards of $300 million. Several of its global expansion projects with the IP were scrapped. The Indian chapter with Varun Dhawan and Samantha had some respite but has no plans of being renewed for a second season. And the new season that has already been shot with Priyanka Chopra and Richard Madden has been in the back burner of the Amazon offices, being pushed to a 2026 release, presumably owing to the team not being happy with the footage. The marketing push that had all the right headlines of Priyanka finally experiencing pay parity in the industry, leading the charge on what is going to be this global phenomena, crashed and burned very fast. Jennifer Salke, responsible for this expansion with Amazon and being instrumental in leading projects like Rings of Power and Citadel, was under heavy scrutiny, and what seems like the final straw was presumably the professional conflict she had with Barbara Broccoli, the owner of the IP of the Bond franchise, which was ultimately handed over to Amazon for $1 billion. One assumes that the contributing factor of Priyanka landing such consistent projects with Amazon had a lot to do with Jennifer's influence with Amazon. With Citadel Season 2 being in limbo, with mere squibs like Heads of State and The Bluff going straight to streaming and barely causing any discourse, it seems like Priyanka Chopra was again on faulty ground with her career in the West. But as I prefaced in the introduction of the video, Priyanka Chopra always knows when and how to pivot, and I think it's an absolute masterstroke that Priyanka bagged a role in the ambitious Varanasi directed by SS Rajamouli, because you very well know it's going to be a blast on the global map when it releases. A successful Bollywood career followed by a Hollywood pivot that in the last few years has genuinely gone terribly wrong may just see the light at the end of the tunnel, with SS Rajamouli coming to the rescue and for maybe Priyanka to get back to home turf and do what she does best. Act with great filmmakers with diverse roles, because I genuinely believe all the best work that she has done has been in India. The fat paychecks in the West may be a huge motivating factor. I mean, who doesn't like making that kind of bread? But I think longevity in an acting career, especially for Priyanka, who I dearly miss in Hindi cinema, would be to have a solid comeback with Varanasi and entertain the Indian audience with Indian creators versus the slop she features in today in the West. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below, what do you think about Priyanka Chopra's career, her pivot to the West, and how it has all panned out? Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.